I made 200,000 naira on 3 million naira investment. Does it really worth it? Ladies and gentlemen, in the previous production, that is my first production, I told you in this video how I lost 3 million naira. So in this just concluded production, I managed to gain 200,000 naira out of 3 million naira investment. So this is what happened. I stocked my farm with 30,250. That number is actually ambiguous. I actually did not count, but looking at the figures, it should be within the range of 20,000 fingerlings. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to be sticking with 20,000 fingerlings. So I stocked my farm with 20,000 fingerlings in December. Those fingerlings, they were just a month old by the time I brought them out of the tank. I hatched it myself alongside my friend David. So I stocked my farm in December. That was second week of December. I dumped everything into one pond, hoping I was going to see a good result. Okay, unfortunately, I think I've already told a lot of my people here that I made a mistake of the way I was carrying those fingerlings. So instead of me to use a gallon, jerry can, I don't know how you call it, keg, some people call it keg, whichever name you give it, instead of me to use that, I made use of a bowl. And you know, in my car, I actually don't want water to spill into my car. Thereby, I drain the water to the barest minimum. To cut the long story short, I lost close to like 10,000 fingerlings. Immediately I was pouring it into the pond, they were just floating, which shows you they are dead. Okay, that aside, so let me say I managed to get like 10,000 fingerlings to survive the whole azus and buzzers. Now, from that, I did another thing. Okay, the next thing I'm going to be going in depth into is the feeding, the fuel, and also the security staff, which is my only staff for now that I am paying. So I managed to just split all my expenses under these three categories. You know, in one of my videos already, I showed you some of the expenses you incur as a fish farmer. Yeah, so in December, I spent, sorry, I didn't have this together, so I had to, that was 97,200 and 38,200. Just write it somewhere. We're going to do the addition together. So in those period in December, I was not spending on diesel because I had another fishes in stock that I was supposed to harvest that December or January. So eventually I harvested them in January. So the expenses of fuel is not based on this one, rather is spread on the previous production. So for January now, I spent 102,950 on feeds, while on fuel I spent 60,000 naira on diesel. I use diesel to power my water supply. In February, I spent 570,700 naira on feeding, just feeding alone, while on diesel I spent 75,000 naira. Then for the security and other stuffs, the security is actually not working just as security alone, is doing some other jobs for me. So his monthly take home is 35,000 naira. So that aside, in March I spent on feeding 870,000 naira, while on diesel I spent 83,000 naira. The same. Then for the salary is fixed, is a constant, so that's 35,000 naira. Now that was around that March was when there was hike in the price of diesel. Therefore I had to quit the use of diesel. Instead I made use of my nursery pond as the temporary solution to the problem, to combat the problem of diesel hike in diesel price. So since then I started the use of my concrete pond. If you have watched some of my videos, you will observe that in recent time I use concrete pond for my fishes. That is the reason. So let me jump to April. In April I spent 575,000 naira on feeding, while on fuel, I no longer spend on fuel anymore. On salary, 35,000 naira. In May I spent 165,300, while on fuel as well, nothing. On salary, 35,000. In June, when I eventually harvested my fishes, I spent 132,440 naira on feeds. On fuel, nothing. On salary, 35,000 naira. So the total amount I spent on feed alone sums up to 2,551,790, while the amount I spent on diesel, for those period of time I used diesel, I spent 218,000 naira, while on salary for those 5 months I spent 175,000 naira. So adding everything up, the cost of running the investment, I spent 2,944,790. That's the cost. That's the overhead cost. That's all the cost I spent. Now let me bring this to you. In one of my videos I told you shouldn't stock your farm with fingerlings. In this other production I just concluded, I observed, I told you some of them died, but eventually like 10,000. By the time I sorted my fishes, when I graded them into sizes, I observed I hardly was able to get like 3,700 pieces of fishes. 3,700 pieces of fishes. So I was able to nurture like 3,500 up to 6 points. So that shows you, if I had raised the fishes up to juvenile before pouring it into my eating pond, I think the numbers would have risen more than that. But nonetheless, I still had a bit of profit. So I sold like two buses and some baths. We call it baths here. I don't know how you call it over there. In one bus we have 50 rubber or 50 baths, each containing 25 kg of fishes. So I managed to sell 2 buses and some rubbers. I still have some fishes left in my concrete tank, which is still additional profit. So for the first bus, I was able to land myself 1,530,000 naira, while on the second bus I was able to land myself 1,478,000 naira, and also I sold some rubbers around 200,000 naira. Yeah, the disparity in the prices in this figure is as a result of the differences in the prices. Now we have here in Nigeria, we have different sizes and different prices. So here we have those ones that are at table size, and when I say table size, I mean from 0.6 kg up to 0.8 kg. Those are the table size, if I'm not mistaken. So those ones we call it tiny, and the one that succeeds that is what we call tiny. Then after tiny we have the smallest. After smallest we have the small. After small we have the big. In some other parts of this same country, some people call it medium, some people call it big, whichever name you give to it. So that's the reason why there's disparity in the amount I sold each buses. I hope you understand now. So in total, the amount I sold all those ones is equal to 3,208,000 naira. So did we make profits? Yeah, we managed to make 263,210 naira. Of course, you are going to ask me, does that really make sense? Yes, it does. To me, it makes sense, a lot of sense, because in the previous video, in the previous production, I told you I lost 3 million naira. Right now, I just made 200,000 naira. So I'm happy. And the reason why the profit margin is that low is because, one, borehole water cannot be compared with the amount of water you're going to get if you're close to river. If river is your main supply, is your main source of water, you cannot compare it. At the same time, you cannot compare raising catfish in a concrete pond with you raising catfish in an earthen pond. Yes, recently I just made some other stocking where I showed you I think like 35,000 thereabout. I decided to put like 5,000 in earthen pond, then the remaining ones in concrete. You won't believe that the ones in the earthen pond at this moment, they are almost double the size of the one in the concrete pond, which shows you earthen pond by far cannot be compared with concrete pond. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have any challenges with your fishes, the only word of motivation I'm going to tell you is don't quit. Keep grinding. We are getting there. So right now, from the first production, I was able to pinpoint my mistakes and I've adjusted in the second production. So believe me, in the next production, we are going to eat it big by God's grace. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sam. Please subscribe to my channel. Without you, we can build a community. Let's build a wonderful community together. I love you. Peace out. Bye.